Hey guys, welcome back. Raphael here. We're going to talk about Alteryx. We're going to create a simple workflow on the Alteryx canvas utilizing some MLB data that I have. If you think back to a video I did when I was talking about Tableau, we were using MLB data to examine the statistic run differential, and we're plotting the various teams' run differential by game. It's going to be similar to that. We're going to do the same calculation here in Alteryx, but we have some aggregated data from our baseball bank data set that we have, and we're gonna look at the MLB run differential or year over year for teams. We're gonna do the calculation in Alteryx and kind of play around with the different tools to create simple workflow in Alteryx. So if you look in Alteryx here on the canvas that you see on the screen, I've created a simple workflow starting with the input data, which is green here by the with the open book image. This is my input data here, looking at a CSV called Teams. Um, Notice I have a browse tool connected to it, and then I also have a select tool and a unique tool connected to it because I wanted to check the uniqueness of that data set. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. I have a select tool, formula tool, a filter tool, some interactive chart tools. This is the first time I'm actually using that kind of tool, so it's kind of cool to kind of go through it. I'll walk you through what I did there, and then an insights tool there, and we'll probably end off talking about that. I have some browse tools here, so notice these green binocular tools. Well, that's your browse tool. That's going to be useful for you if you wanted to kind of work and test out some stuff as you're building your workflow. The browse tool will show you all the data there and the results pane in the bottom. So I ran this already before I hit record, but you can see in the browse tool, it'll show your data and the results pane down here. So that's very useful too. I like to use a lot of those browse tools in certain checkpoints of my workflow to make sure that what I'm intending to do and what I'm building and manipulating is correctly working. Um, I like using that. Sometimes I use the node on the right side of the tool that I want to test. So, for instance, the input tool here, there's that green node. That'll show you some data as well. Um, but as your data set gets larger, by clicking on this node here, you're only going to get a subset of the total data set. So sometimes I actually want to see the whole data set rather than a subset just to make sure it's working. So I like to incorporate the browse tool because the browse tool is going to show you all the results. Okay, so now let's talk about uniqueness. One of the pet peeves I have when working with data sets is I want to kind of examine it first and make sure that it's unique. Because if I'm going to join it to another data set in the future or in as we proceed in the workflow, I want to I want to make sure that I know by what dimensions the data set is unique by. I do that because I want to make sure that I'm not creating any duplicates when I do joins. I've ran into issues in my career in the past when I first started working with data where I would join stuff and then join it again, and then I realize I'm creating some duplicates, which is just inflating the data or losing data. And it was those little drawbacks when I first started getting into coding and doing some syntax and logic that I had to kind of, institute some personal best practices for myself. So when I look at data sets, I like to just work with them first, examine them, assess them. What are they unique by? So that it makes it easier for me down the line when I start to build or join or append to other data sets. Okay, so first things first, I'm using the select tool here. Notice on the left pane here on the configuration pane, um, it's going to list all the fields of the team's CSV. I'm only going to utilize the first five columns, which are basically, I would like to say, like your descriptors, not your actual activity or measures. So I'm going to parse those out and only use those in checking the uniqueness. I'm going to connect it to a uniqueness tool. I'm going to select all and then examine the uniqueness for that. So notice how when I go to the unique node, which is identified by you, I get an amount of 3,015. And if I go to D for duplicate, I get 0 records. So automatically that tells me that there are no duplicates by that combination of columns, by year ID, league ID, team ID, franchise ID, and division ID. So if I'm going to do a one-to-one join, I would like to join it with another data set that's unique by these same columns. Okay, so that's kind of what I've gone through. I understand it's unique now. I want to proceed forward with the exercise. So notice here I created some comment boxes. I colored them green and blue, and then I basically overlaid them on these tools that I'm using. And then I just brought the tool, right clicked it, and brought it forward. Um, brought it forward over the comment, which you could do here. There's a send the backs, bring the front. I like doing comment boxes like this and containers. So this is a container here. This is a container. These two in the middle are comment boxes. I do that because I'm in a group setting where I work at. So if I'm building a workflow, it's not always going to stay with me. I could go to another job. I could go to another position. I could work on some other book of work. If I'm going to build something that's eventually going to be put into use, put into production, I want to make sure that I notate as much as possible. So it not only executes like a workflow in Alteryx, but also acts as a job aid so it can kind of guide the next person that's going to modify things or run it, what's going on for those tools. Okay, so the green comment box says modify metadata, change measures to numbers that are initially extracted as strings. So let's go back really quick to the select tool. This was the one that we used for uniqueness. Notice how all the types here are all V strings. So the initial data set itself is all strings. But we know from the data itself, if you look in the results area down here in the bottom, it's not all strings. There's numbers, runs, wins, losses, right? So we want to make sure we change all that. So I'm using a select tool here. And then notice how I'm changing all the relevant measures, performance measures, to doubles. Basically just changing it back to a number. Oh, there's one there I forgot to change. What is that? Shutouts. Why didn't I change that? Let's take a look at that, huh? Yeah, that should be a double. So go here, click, change that to double. And then there's also some additional demographic data like name of the franchise, the park name of the stadium, the park, attendance, some other ID numbers that aren't relevant for this exercise. Okay, so that changes all the data types for those to doubles, which is basically changing it to a number. I did that because I'm using some very raw statistics that MLB has given me, but I also want to use a combination of those statistics and measures to create some additional baseball statistics that we track teams' performance, defensive abilities, team performance, stuff like that. All right. So with that said, next thing is a formula tool. I have that here overlaid on a blue comment box that says calculations to create standard MLB calcs from original data set indicators. So notice how it says MLB calcs parenthesis 4. I did that myself. I just changed the annotation. So if you go here to the annotation, I changed that and said MLB calcs parenthesis 4. If you don't have that, then it's just going to list a listing of all the formulas. It's just your preference. So, all right. So here's a list of all the calcs I've created. There's the run differential, which I've created. The average, so um, batting average, stolen base percentage, on base percentage, a single 1B. So I created that because in the original raw data set, there's hits, doubles, triples, home runs, but obviously the net of all that would be the singles. So I wanted to have an isolated standalone measure for singles. So that's why I created that. Slugging percentage and then the OPS, which is a combination of the on base percentage and slugging percentage. So we're gonna click these carrots and kind of view each calc real quick. So the run differential, notice how you can actually comment inside the formula. So that's another guide or a useful tip to guide others that are digging into your workflow in the future, to kind of explain whether it's the definition of the calculation, why you did that calc. This gives more substance or information to the person that's the next developer down the line that would be seeing your work and working on it. So run differential, I'm taking runs minus runs against. So the net of that would be the run differential. And then this is the general definition from the MLB website. A team's run differential is determined by subtracting the total number of runs, both earned and unearned, it has allowed from the number of runs it has scored. Okay, so I'm going to collapse that. Average, basically your hits above at bats. Stolen base percentage. So we had a stolen base measure and a caught stealing measure. So I basically just added those two to get total stolen base attempts. Or I didn't add them. Sorry, I did stolen base. Wait, actually, that might be wrong. It's a good thing I figured that out right now while talking to you guys. Let's fix it right now. How about that? So let's do stolen base, and we're gonna do stolen base plus caught stealing. All right, that should be the true calculation. So I'm adding the stolen base and the caught stealing as our denominator. So those are just basically all your stolen base attempts, and then I'm getting a stolen base success percentage. On base percentage, so that refers to how frequently a batter reaches base per plate appearance, whether it's a hit, a walk, or a hit by pitch over a number of at bats. Here's my call out where I wanted to just have a standalone measure for singles. So I took the number of hits total and I just subtracted it and got the net when incorporating the double, triple, and home runs. Slugging percentage. So MLB says that slugging percentage represents the total number of bases a player records per at bat. Unlike on base percentage, slugging percentage deals only with hits and does not include walks and hit by pitches in the equation. So notice how there's a weighted measure to the type of hit, right? So for a single, it's just a standalone single. For doubles, you multiply times two, triples times three, home run times four, because those are the number of bases that you're acquiring through that type of hit, and then over the at bat. Last one, your OPS, that just basically adds on base percentage and slugging to get one number that unites the two. It's meant to combine how well a hitter can reach base with how well he can hit for average and for power. So those were the calcs I created. Let's see, that's 7 calcs. Let's go back here and change that to 7. I'm not sure why there's a 4 there. Let's change that to 7. So the annotation there should say 7. There it goes. Okay, there's my comment. All right. So I'm gonna rerun this really quick. I should redo that stealing percentage. The change we made on the shutout measure, we changed that to a string to a double, and then we're gonna talk more about what we created here. Okay. So first things first, there's this chart tool in your reporting ribbon, which is orange. It's called interactive chart. So the idea here, it says visually create interactive charts that allow viewers to explore their data in meaningful ways. So there's a way to create charts in Alteryx. You don't have to, take it to another visualization tool like Power BI or Tableau or Click, but you can do so here as well in Alteryx. So for the construction of the chart, I wanted to work with a subset of the data, not just everything. So I used a filter tool here, and I brought in basically just my team ID equals Tex for Texas Rangers. and then brought in the interactive chart. If I go to configuration here, check that out. So basically creating a layer. Let's see. So I did a layer line type chart. I brought in year for the x-axis, which is basically every year for the Rangers since they were created in '72, and then brought in run differential as the measure that I wanted to be plotted via line chart on the y-axis. Pretty simple. You can create simple charts here. You can look at the type and create a bar chart, box and whisker, candlestick, heat map, line, scatter, and pie chart. Very simple chart creation here. Um, I wanted to talk a little bit about this as well. This is the Insights tool. I'm going to click on this. So the cool thing I like about this is you can actually create a kind of a combination chart, a bunch of charts, some text that where you can kind of notate your insights out of that. So basically creating like uh, a ready-made template or of a report where you have different charts, different text callouts, text annotations. So I'm going to go to configure. I've already done something like this using the text data that we filtered. So take a look at this as it loads. I'll walk you through it. Basically create a title here and say, a yearly view of overall yearly statistics for the Texas Rangers. I brought in that same run differential chart here. I did a few other things. Create some other simple charts here. I created a scatter that looks at number of wins by batting average. I brought in a dual bar line chart here by on base percentage and slugging percentage. I also brought in a area chart over a bar chart, looking at home runs and also looking at number of hits. And then I also had some text here on the Texas Rangers, so you can bring in some various charts to the canvas text. They're all in box form, and then you can kind of just format it, get it constructed and viewed the way you want it to look. All this, I didn't sit down and actually think about writing all this. I basically got this off Chat GPT and said, hey, give me a quick summary on the Texas Rangers. And this is what Chat GPT came out with. Pretty cool. Of course, pretty accurate. And then just want to have some text in here to kind of accompany um, the data, the charts here. So then you can kind of see the overlay, how I put the charts. Pretty simple. I like this if you have your data set like a sandbox of data and you're gonna create a quick chart that only needs charts and text and nothing too fancy, like no, kind of interactive manipulation in it and whatnot. Now I can go here to the same interactive chart tool that I've used here for Texas, but now I want to do it for all the teams to give you more of a feel of how to break it out by team. So I'm going to click on this one here. I'll go to configure. So this actually is going to show me the run differential by year for every team. Um, so notice how this is kind of really similar to the line chart I created in Tableau that kind of looks at all the years and teams by game, but this one is just more of a collective aggregation by year, and so it kind of really shows more of some variation year to year. But by game, you can kind of see it's more of a fluid, kind of a flame like in our Tableau view, which I can show you here. So, what I'll do really quick, I will bring it up here just to show you real quick. So notice you see more of this flame-like run differential measure here by team, because that's by game, and I'm overlaying every mark as a team by year, by game. Whereas in Alteryx, it's kind of a yearly aggregate, so it's a little bit more noisy. That's that you can create that using your using the variation functionality in the chart. So, for instance, if I wanted to go, if I still had the same x-axis as the year, the same y-axis as the run differential, I can actually go to the transform here and create basically a transformation by team ID. So it does everything. It basically creates additional little members representative for each team. So that's the one thing I do like about the chart is you can kind of break it out. It's a little bit noisy. It takes a little bit more getting used to in practice to get it working into a workable report. This is a good alternative for those that you have a fixed sandbox. The data's going to stay in there. No major manipulation needed. No major interaction needed for the views. Just create a simple report, and I think Alteryx is a good option for that. So I hope you enjoyed this tip and take care.